How was Japan truly born? Before emperors, before samurai, there were people, and then a myth that would forge a nation, a divine origin from the sun itself. This belief would forge a soul of steel, and eventually build this, a modern miracle. But the path from myth to metropolis was long. To understand Japan, we must walk that path.
Before Japan was an island, a land bridge connected it to Asia.
And in 40,000 BC, people crossed. On the far side lay Japan. Then warmth came, seas climbed, and people settled among tall trees. They made stone tools, fired bowls. After crafted pottery and stone tools, we ask, after forests grew, people settled. Then, by 500 BCE, neighbors forged bronze. From Korea and China, ideas crossed seas. With bronze came stronger, sharper tools, and wet rice fields took root. Harvests sped up and villages grew. Follow to master our shared roots.
After rice arrived by sea, life changed. After seas rose, islands stood alone, and rice fields linked clans into kingdoms. But by 279 AD, southward spread paused. So kingdoms rose, Haichikushi, Izumo, Kibi, and Koshi, Kenu, then Yamato ascended, and Yamato's emperor Jimmu, Japan's first. Follow rice to Yamato's first throne.
What calmed a divided court? Then in 552, Buddhism arrived. And from China through Korea, Prince Shotoku saw a path. But the court feared change. By 604, order took root. New rules shaped heart and state. And Japan found a calmer center.
After Shotoku calmed the court, order held. After harmony laws, temples rose, power shifted. And then, 645, new hands took rule. They launched Taika reforms, central rule strengthened. And yet they modeled on Tang China. Census, land to state, taxes standardized. Provinces formed. Court appointed governors. Ranks set. Skill rose over clan. Order builds power faster than chaos.
One city, one emperor. Why? Then, in 794, Kanmu chose Kyoto because power crowded Nara's temples. So they built Heian Palace, and order spread. Roads tied provinces. By 802, the North aligned, because stability invites reach and culture. Find order faster through story.
One monk rewrites Japan. This is Kukai, a seeker, but he is bored with ritual, so he sails to Tang China. There, Shingon ignites his spirit. He returns, simplifies writing to kana, and art and literature bloom.
Power began with a paycheck. Now, year 1000, Heian Japan. An estate spread wide, order thinned. So nobles hired armed servants. They called them samurai to serve, and mostly the rich and important. But bodyguards soon shaped power. Follow this saga. Unlock leadership insight.
When warriors replaced kings, behind silk screens, power drifted. Because taxes faltered, warriors rose. Then two clans rivaled, Taira and Minamoto. In 1185, Minamoto claimed victory. In 1192, a shogunate began. And yet, the emperor still reigned. But real rule sat with shogun.
Did a storm save Japan? In 1274, danger gathered, and their eyes turned to Japan. They struck Tsushima and Iki first, but defenders sought spirit and skill. Then the wind struck hard, and many thanked nature's shield. Yet another test would come.
A storm saved Japan. Why? And in 1281, a second invasion. Mongol fleets crossed the sea. Ships filled the horizon. Two massive forces converged. Japan braced behind new walls, and prayers rose in shrines. But the sky darkened fast. Winds curled like dragons. The typhoon shattered the fleets. Masts snapped. Anchors failed. The invaders lost all footholds. They abandoned Tsushima and Iki. After the kamikaze saved Japan, after the armada broke, calm returned. But in 1333, the emperor struck, and the shogunate crumbled in Kyoto. 3 years later, Ashikaga Takauji seized power. He moved rule to Kyoto, defiantly, and founded the Ashikaga shogunate. 2 heirs, 1 throne, and in 1464, no heir named. So he calls his brother Yoshimi. Yoshimi agrees to return reluctantly. But then an heir appears. Courtiers and clans must choose. This choice lights the fuse.
2 rivals to become shogun. Brother Ashikaga Yoshimi versus son Ashikaga Yoshihisa.
After Yoshimasa named Yoshimi, a son arrived. After rival claims split Kyoto, sides hardened, and people demanded another shogun loudly. Onin War erupts. Hosokawa versus Yamana. It lasts 10 years, until 1477. Kyoto burns, streets silent and empty. And yet, people seek peace again. Stay with us, master this story.
Japan breaks. Power hunts power. Year 1477 after Onin War. And many clans seize local rule. Each vows to unite the land, but none can claim all yet. And yet, culture breathes through ruins. Old ideals still whisper of unity. Follow this saga, master strategy fast.
After the Onin War ended, Kyoto scarred, power shattered, banners rose. Then strange sails cut the mist, and missionaries shared Christian faith. But some welcomed it, others resisted. Soon other flags would follow, and Japan stands at a crossroad. After Portuguese ships reached Tanegashima, who owns Kyoto? After Kyoto's court lost its grip, the capital stands open, unclaimed. Now, matchlocks change every plan. Some samurai fade into shadow. Clans vie for local rule. Yet old spirits watch in silence. Follow. Claim your strategist edge. Who gets to Kyoto first? Now, Japan, 1560. Power fractures. Meanwhile, Imagawa plans a grand march. And here is Oda Nobunaga, leader. Then a daring move in storm. So Imagawa stalls, Oda seizes momentum. Soon, Nobunaga nears the capital. Strategy beats size. Follow to master it.
One night rewrote Japan. In 1582, Oda unites half Japan, but trust cracks with Akechi Mitsuhide. At Honnoji, Nobunaga's story ends. And yet, Toyotomi Hideyoshi advances. Mitsuhide loses power at Yamazaki. By 1590, Hideyoshi unites Japan. Master strategy faster. Follow this journey.
What if a promise could break an empire? Following the unification of Japan, Toyotomi Hideyoshi's rule was cut short by illness. On his deathbed, he made one final request. He told the council to protect his young heir. But Ieyasu believed Japan needed a shogun now. He put himself forward as the next ruler. The stage was set for a new conflict.
After unifying Japan, one rule reshaped power. After unifying Japan, remember Honnoji and Yamazaki. In 1590, he ruled all provinces. Then, no swords or guns allowed. and rolls froze. No rank climbing. Also pay taxes. Land was measured. He aimed at Korea, then China. But illness ended him in 1598.
2 samurai, 1 throne, Japan's fate. In the year 1600, Tokugawa Ieyasu was named ruler, but half the nation, led by Yoshida Mitsunari, refused to bow. Finding his claim challenged, Ieyasu prepared for a fight, a battle that would seal the nation's destiny. And through strategy and will, Tokugawa Ieyasu won. He then established a new government in the city of Edo, beginning a dynasty that would rule for 250 years.
After the Battle of Sekigahara, a new peace began. The Tokugawa shogunate brought unity and order. To survive, Japan locked its doors. In 1639, Japan closed itself to the world. No one could leave, and no one could enter. But complete isolation meant stagnation. And so, a single, calculated exception was made. A tiny island became Japan's only eye on the world.
After Tokugawa's decisive victory, the age of war was over. To protect this new peace, Japan closed its doors to the world. And in this quiet garden, the nation began to grow. New roads were built, and so were new mines. For the first time, knowledge was not just for the elite, but one tiny window remained open, and through it flowed a secret weapon. Knowledge. Geography, physics, astronomy. The future had arrived in secret.
A 200-year silence broken. For over 200 years, Japan was a ghost. A world sealed from outsiders. Until the year 1853, when a new nation's ships appeared. Led by Commodore Matthew Perry, and he carried an order: open your country.
After Commodore Perry's black ships shattered 2 centuries of isolation, Japan's rulers faced an order, not a request. With no defense against modern cannons, they had no choice but to comply. A contract was made, opening their ports to America, Britain, and Russia. Many accepted this new world out of pragmatism. But in the South, 2 clans saw only dishonor. They hated this deal, seeing not a treaty, but a betrayal. And their defiance would soon ignite a nation. A city's name, a nation's destiny. After foreign ships shattered Japan's isolation, furious samurai clans rose against the shogun. The Boshin War ended in 1868. The shogun was overthrown. A new emperor ascended. This is Emperor Meiji, moving to the shogun's castle. He gave the city a new name, Eastern Capital. The real name is now Tokyo. A new era had begun.
Their secret weapon, the enemy's playbook. After the shogun's final defeat, a new Japan was born under one leader. But to survive, they had to change everything. They created a new government, modeled after America's. Then came a constitution inspired by Western law, and an army not of samurai, but of soldiers. Japan had remade itself in the West's image.
What fuels an empire's hunger? After the Restoration shattered centuries of isolation, Japan mastered the West's playbook of power. But learning was not enough. Japan wanted to lead. Korea, long under China's shadow, became the prize. In 1894, Japan's new army moved to conquer. By 1895, a new empire had been born.
In 1895, Japan stood victorious. The war with China was over, but another great power watched with ambition. the Russian Empire needed a warm water port. Their solution was an iron road, a railroad that cut directly through Japan's prize. Two empires were now on a collision course.
After its triumph over China, Japan was a new power. But a shadow loomed from the north. In 1899, Russia began laying its steel path. When the line was finished, the army grew. Japan now saw the railroad's true purpose. They were outmatched. They needed a friend. And so, an unlikely alliance was forged.
Following their alliance with Great Britain, Japan watched Russia's railroad grip Manchuria. By 1904, diplomacy had failed. Japan launched a surprise attack. For one brutal year, the two empires clashed. Then, in 1905, the unthinkable happened. Japan had won the war, but this was more than just a victory. An Asian power defeated a European giant. The world would never be the same.
What if war was an opportunity? In June 1914, a spark in Sarajevo sent a whisper across the world to Japan. But Japan was already playing its own game.
Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Russia on Austria-Hungary, Germany on Russia, then the UK and France on Germany.
And Germany's focus was a world away. For Japan, this chaos was a checklist. The board was set. The pieces were in motion.
Glory is found in forgotten wars. Following the shot that plunged Europe into chaos, Japan saw not a crisis, but an opportunity. For Private Kenji, opportunity had a name: Qingdao, a German stronghold, the pride of the Kaiser in Asia. Our mission was to seize it for the Emperor. We sailed not for Europe, but for our own destiny. And now, the shores of our ambition are in sight.
After the Japanese fleet arrived at Qingdao, their mission was to seize Germany's Asian territories. The fortress fell, a swift victory for the empire. But an unexpected request came from their British allies. They needed Japan's help to secure Singapore. And in the halls of power, a question arose. Should their ambition remain in Asia, or was it time to look toward Europe? Japan's forgotten European war. Following their victory at Qingdao, Japan's leaders faced a monumental choice. But Britain's request shifted. In 1917, Japan agreed to help, stationing their ships in Malta. Their task: defend against an attack that never came.
Following their hollow duty in Malta, Japan's war, which began with bold ambition, ended not with a bang, but a whisper. On November 11th, 1918, peace arrived. But with it came an unexpected invitation.
The world powers want us to join their League of Nations.
They invite us to their table, but will they see us as equals?
After the Great War ended, Japan was invited to the world stage, but for soldiers like Kenji returning home, peace was a sound they had never heard before. From the West came a new rhythm, a new freedom, and new stories flickered in the dark, fueled by an economy booming like never before. Japan was transforming, but into what?
After the Great War, Japan entered a new age. Western culture arrived, changing the nation's face. It was an era of freedom and dazzling lights. But a dark new idea was also arriving. From the ashes of Russia's empire, a specter appeared. The people grew terrified of this new revolution. A new shadow had fallen over the rising sun.
An entire economy just vanished. It started in America in 1929, but the world's economy was connected. And in 1930, the wave hit Japan. Suddenly, millions of people lost their jobs, and they could not afford food. From the ashes of a collapsed nation, something new and dangerous was born.
Desperation's answer was conquest. After the great suffering swept Japan, a dangerous new idea took hold. In 1937, Japan moved to expand its empire. It invaded Manchuria, ignoring the world's warnings. And this was only the beginning. Japan's armies pushed into a fractured China, a land already at war with itself.
Following their invasion of China, Japan was already shaped by desperation. Then in 1939, news arrived from Europe. Germany's invasion of Poland started a new war. For Japan, this was a golden opportunity. They could expand their empire while Europe burned. Their powerful military machine was ready. They were just waiting for the right time.
How did Hitler help Japan's empire? In the summer of 1940, France fell, and Japan was trapped in a long war, needing to cut supplies from French Indochina. Because France was defeated, its colony was weak. On September 22, 1940, Japan seized its chance. This proved Japan would be an ally of Germany, and it set the stage for a much larger war.
A pact that sealed the world's fate. After their swift invasion of French Indochina, Japan saw a world weakened by war. They decided to take another gamble, and with Italy, ruled by Benito Mussolini, together they signed the Tripartite Pact.
Following its alliance with the Axis powers, Japan set its sights on a grander prize. The United States had cut off Japan's oil, starved of fuel. The empire looked south, to British Malaya and the Dutch East Indies. But there was just one issue: the Philippines, controlled by the United States.
A cornered empire's desperate gamble. Japan's ambition was choked by an American oil embargo. Desperate, their gaze fell upon the resource-rich South. But a formidable American obstacle stood in the way. To take the Philippines, they needed a devastating distraction, a single crippling blow against the American fleet. And the plan was entrusted to Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto.
After the United States cut off its oil, Japan faced a choice. Admiral Yamamoto was given a desperate task, a high-stakes gamble. On December 7th, 1941, that gamble would arrive in Hawaii. Hundreds of Japanese planes took to the sky. The attack lasted 1 hour and 15 minutes. They destroyed 8 ships, 4 of them battleships. One was the USS Arizona, a tomb for its crew. Over 2,000 American sailors were killed.
Pearl Harbor was just the beginning. Following the devastating surprise attack, Admiral Yamamoto's desperate gamble had succeeded. But the true prize was never Hawaii. 1 day later, on December 8th, the main Japanese invasion force struck the Philippines. At the same time, hundreds of miles away, bombers descended on Wake Island to eliminate any threat. An impossible victory, a heroic defeat. After the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan's ambition was a massive southern expansion, and a tiny American outpost stood in their way. On December 11th, the defenders met them with fire. Against all odds, the first wave was broken, but on December 22nd, the Empire returned. Victory came, but at a cost of 800 casualties.
How did an empire form? After Pearl Harbor, America's eyes turned to the Philippines. But this was only half the story. The British Empire felt secure in its fortress, but the invasion came not from the sea, but the land. In just 2 months, the unthinkable happened. A humiliating defeat for the British, and another stunning victory for Japan.
After the stunning conquest of Malaya, Japan's war machine seemed unstoppable, but its next target held a fatal weakness. The Dutch East Indies had a larger army, but their homeland was under German occupation. Supplies and reinforcements were cut off, and in Java, harsh Dutch rule was unpopular. This meant the rich prize fell easily.
America's biggest military disaster. After the devastating strike on Pearl Harbor, Japan's true objective came into focus. In the Philippines, American forces were confident, but they couldn't stop the coming storm. In just 1 month, Manila had fallen. 4 months later, the entire region was lost. And for 90,000 men, a harsh fate awaited.
A victory that looked like defeat. In May 1942, Japan's ambition was vast. Their plan to seize Port Moresby, New Guinea. But they were met by the U.S. Navy. It was the first naval battle in history, where the ships never saw each other. The Japanese retreated. Their invasion stopped. Though America lost more ships, it was a victory that changed the war.
4 minutes changed the entire war. After the Coral Sea, Admiral Yamamoto planned one final decisive battle. His target was a tiny island called Midway. But because of fatal pride, Japan's plan was already known. In 4 minutes, 3 of Japan's greatest carriers were hit. Akagi, Kaga, Sori, and Ryugu became fiery graves. Japan was now the defender, America the aggressor.
Following the crushing defeat at Midway, Japan's carrier fleet was shattered. 5 months later, the war moved to the jungles. Here, the environment was as deadly as the enemy. With ammunition gone, Japan turned to a final tactic. Rapid banzai charges. Their war cry, Tenno Heika Banzai. But a question remained. Would it work on Americans?
Revenge has a deadline, and for America, the target had a name. But Japan's greatest weapon was its predictability. A single message, a fatal itinerary. The mission was codenamed Vengeance. April 18, 1943. The sky was the trap. The target was not a plane, but a man. And with him fell an empire's ambition.
Surrender was not an option. In September 1943, the news arrived. Italy, their powerful European ally, had fallen. The shock echoed through the highest command. But this was not seen as a defeat. It was seen as a betrayal. And so, a resolve hardened across the nation. Japan would fight, even if it meant fighting alone. They chose death over surrender. In June 1944, this was Saipan. For 1 month, the fighting was fierce. But soon, they were trapped with no escape. For them, surrender was not an option. And so came the biggest banzai charge of the war. It cost the Americans 650 casualties. The fall of Saipan changed everything.
A promise kept in blood. By 1944, the Philippines had been under Japanese control. And then, the Americans landed back on the Philippines. The Japanese attempted to hold back against the Americans, but they suffered devastating casualties. Nearly 190,000 in a desperate, lost defense. The Philippines was retaken, a major defeat for Japan.
By February 1945, Japan was cornered, and its position was about to get worse. The Battle of Iwo Jima began. The fighting was fierce, the resistance absolute. Americans may have suffered more casualties, but it was still a defeat for Japan. The fight in the Pacific was now unwinnable.
What was Japan's final desperate gamble? In April 1945, a massive fleet appeared. The Battle of Okinawa had started. It was the largest island battle of the war, and the last major battle in the Pacific. This battle became another major defeat for Japan, but their only thought was of defense. They knew the US would one day invade mainland Japan, and they would need to be ready for it. In May 1945, a message arrives. Their greatest ally, Germany, had fallen. The Führer was dead. For Japan, the world shrank overnight. They were now completely alone, facing the full might of America. The end seemed inevitable. After its allies fell, Japan stood alone and defiant. The nation, led by its emperor, prepared for the final battle. But on August 6th, a different sun rose. It was an atomic bomb, born of the Manhattan Project. And 3 days later, a second fell on Nagasaki. The devastation was absolute, a power never seen before. Facing this new reality, the emperor made his choice. On September 2nd, 1945, Japan surrendered, and the war was over.
A divine empire brought to ruin. In 1946, a god became a man, and his divine power was replaced. By law, Japan could never wage war again, and for the first time, women were given the right to vote. And soon, Japan started to rebuild. This was the birth of modern Japan.
After the ashes of war, Japan saw a new dawn. An emperor became a man, and a new constitution promised peace. But a new ghost haunted Japan. It was the shadow of a new global conflict, and America, their former enemy, was now their occupier. Because with the Americans came the fear of their enemy, communism. Whispers of a new ideology spread through the streets. Caught between two giants, Japan had to choose its path.
How does a nation without an army defend itself? After the ashes of war settled, a new shadow fell across a recovering Japan. Then in June 1950, a fire ignited nearby. America's protectors were sent to the Korean front, and Japan was left defenseless. A temporary shield was forged in August 1950. A police force with rifles, not an army, not yet.
After the Korean War sparked new fears, Japan stood vulnerable, a nation caught between giants. But in 1952, the occupation ended, and by 1953, a new era began. Then in 1954, a miracle was born. The post-war economic boom started. People started to have a better life. From the ashes, Japan forged its golden age.
How to build an empire from ash. In 1945, a nation faced its own end. But from surrender came a new mission. To not just copy, but to perfect. Soon Japan became more advanced than its teachers. The population boomed, creating a new life. This was the Japanese economic miracle. Can a superpower simply fade away? After the war, Japan was in ruins.
But an economic miracle was born from ashes. Today, its technology is from the future.
A bustling powerhouse of people and innovation. But beneath the surface, a crisis grows. Not enough people are born, and the economy slows.
But hope for a new dawn remains.
From sword to silence. Why? After the quiet bloom of hope, Japan's story seemed written in steel and light. But its soul is far older. For centuries, its identity was defense. Great unifiers shaped it through conflict. But today, that sword is now sheathed. And in silence, Japan found a new voice.